Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Crypto Chronicle Podcast. Taylor.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's great to be here again.
Yes. How are we? It's the halving week. I suppose we should...
Yep, you can see that I'm obviously ecstatic about the halving. As a miner, as much as it's great because price action's awesome, it's also kind of like, what could have been, what should have been, and how do I make it continue and so forth.
Yeah, we'll speak on the halving a bit later, but obviously for those that don't know, I still believe it falls on Saturday this week. I haven't rechecked.
20th, yep.
Yeah, 20th of April, which marks Saturday morning, I believe, or I was looking at the UTC time and I was
going to say, does that mean that it actually ends up on the 21st Oz time?
I think so, yeah. So I reckon I was looking at UTC time, but I feel like when I did convert it, it still happened on the 20th. It changes constantly, so we'll have to relook.
It's around Saturday, Sunday.
Yes.
Roughly.
We will touch on the halving a bit later, but obviously, I believe everyone listening to this podcast should know what the Bitcoin halving is. Oh. You don't?
I thought we were about to go somewhere else. Don't worry about it.
No, okay. But we will touch on that a bit later for those that don't. But firstly, it's obviously been a big week of price action, been a big week of geopolitical news.
The watchers would notice the sign difference.
The sign difference? Oh, yes. I didn't even notice.
No. So, yeah, obviously, whatever the price action is for the podcast, the sign is obviously a different colour. So, obviously, today it's...
well, I think that probably points to how fortunate we've been having a constant green sign in the background for the last several months. We will present the red today. But before we jump into the geopolitical stuff, I think we'll go over most of that in the technical analysis section as it relates a lot to the price action, and maybe a few of you are wondering why we have seen such a drastic pullback this week compared to others. But firstly, being the ETF podcast of the world, we actually are going to touch on the ETH ETFs or ETH ETFs first.
Can you tell me about this? Never heard about it.
And the VanEck CEO, he's predicted a probable rejection of the ETF now.
Of course.
Eric and James, obviously our resident Twitter ETF nerds and reporters, they've also revised their odds. I think we spoke about this briefly last week about how the odds are wavering, but we were talking about how we'd always back in BlackRock and how Bitcoin dominance comes in, the altcoin season comes in, how it falls perfectly a month after the halving. There's a bit of shade on this now, obviously, being that the main thing that's occurring right now, and for those that followed the Bitcoin ETF, was the SEC kept coming back with comments, and basically what this means was it was them just saying you just have to change this,
it's the tweak,
tweaks. It's essentially just saying we don't like this, if you do this. And the issue with the ETH ETFs is they've been coming back with no comments, refused to comment. So essentially, to VanEck, who is one of the first on May 23rd to get theirs approved or denied, along with Kathy Wood's ARK Invest. They haven't heard back from the SEC.
So the idea for the SEC now is kicking the bucket down the road.
Well, yeah. Well, it's either
Instead of helping them
there's one or two things. They're just going to reject it, which is probably likely now, given they're looking into the ETH Foundation that we've spoken on in prior weeks. But really it just means one of two things. No comments either means, well, you don't have to make any improvements and we'll accept it, which I doubt. Or it's that we really don't give a shit about your ETF and we don't really want to comment on it and we'll kick the can down the road, like you said. I would say it probably does lean the bearish signal way that I don't think the SEC's... I think they'd make it a bit more known if the comments weren't needed to VanEck and they were happy with it. I don't think the CEO would be coming out and predicting that it'll get rejected.
Well, unless he just wants to tank ETH and buy more of it.
Well, there's a lot of conspiracies out there we can dive into with Spot BTC now and how that's looking, and which is actually at the lowest point it's been in 3 or 4 years, I think. So those ETH maxis, ouch. But that's why we diversify at Imperial Wealth. Exactly right. But we'll keep you updated on the ETH ETF. That's obviously 16th now, so it's 5 weeks roughly that we've got to see if they do bring any comments, or maybe Larry does bolster our chances somehow. But moving on, I think something that could firstly apply a bit of pressure to the SEC to accept it is the biggest piece of news overnight was Hong Kong. The biggest piece of news for me here was obviously approving spot Bitcoin ETFs, but they actually went ahead and did Ethereum at the same time.
I saw that and I was like, whoa.
Okay. So I read it once and then I read it the second time and I went, F2. Wow.
I remember reading it and I was like, So the SFC, which is the Hong Kong
Securities and Futures Commission. They've conditionally approved them, but they haven't launched them yet. So it's 3 local ETFs. I believe they're waiting on something like that. I think the Dubai conference. I don't know. They wanted to wait on something in Dubai or something, but they're launching next week. I think people. I'm a victim of this, so I'm a perpetrator of it. I messaged in the Trading Academy last night, saying let the liquidity come from the East now, blah, blah, blah. I don't think if you're an investor in Hong Kong, hedge fund, big investor, and you want to get exposed to a Bitcoin ETF, you can easily buy the American ones. You don't have to be in Hong Kong and have to expose yourself to the Hong Kong one.
Yeah.
And the point being here is if you are those large hedge funds or you are investors, you'd actually, even if you were in Hong Kong, you'd want to use the US ones because there's less fees, there's less spread, the premiums and stuff are different, there's more liquidity. Yeah. So if you are trying to dump a whole amount or buy a whole amount, it's not going to stuff with the ETF price. So, I am a little it's great. It's not bearish.
It's a win. It's a win. It's not
as big as what other people think. So they think it's the same as the US ones getting accepted. This is 1/100th of the US ones.
It's a moderate bottle of champagne, not a big one.
Yeah, I think Eric said in total they expect 500 million assets under management, which is not.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. But
it's not.
It's not your multi-billions.
It's like an Aussie ETF. It's like
cool. Well, the funny thing is that most of our listeners wouldn't know that there's been 2 Aussie Bitcoin ETFs around for years.
Yeah.
Just the difference with those versus the current ones now is they don't hold Bitcoin directly to
proportionate.
Yeah. It's just following the price of Bitcoin, I believe, and one up. And you heard us speak on Monochrome, I think a week or 2 ago, and they're looking to be the first one that holds actual Bitcoin. Backed by bought Bitcoin. But as we said, it's still good news that other countries are coming. And to just then touch on the ETH ETF and relating back to the rejection of the US one is hopefully maybe Gary and the SEC do look at this and say, we don't want to be falling behind in competition here or something like that.
Yeah.
We don't want...
It could force the hand.
Yeah, we don't want Hong Kong and China and stuff to start accepting it and all the liquidity goes there and the investment goes out of our country into their country.
It'd be interesting to see how much goes through the ETH if it launches next week.
It'd be
just
really
to see what that order flow is.
Because I'm led to believe, this is somewhat hearsay, that Asia regions are actually more prone to liking Ethereum over Bitcoin. I'm not sure if that's because Bitcoin has been banned in certain places or whatever it is, or whether they just prefer, DeFi and applications and gaming and that type of stuff.
NFTs.
Yeah. But it is kind of somewhat known that they do prefer ETH. Well, not prefer it, sorry, maybe just like it a lot more. But anyways, we'll see. It'll be really interesting to see as well. Yeah. Moving on, I think that's all the ETF news we'll have for the week. Thanks for our ETF #1 fans. But we'll stick on
Tune in for next week.
We'll get into another number of regulatory articles now. Funnily enough, 3 from Australia, which is rare. You rarely see anything to do with crypto in Australia.
We usually speak overseas. It's very little Australian.
Yeah, but the first one still relates to the SEC, and that was obviously, most of you would have seen it, the Uniswap got served a Wells notice, which obviously caused a bit of mayhem in alts, and particularly, and obviously for those uni holders, I think price slumped 10% instantly on the news as per. But Hayden Adams, the CEO, did a really good blog post that I recommend, those that do want to read on this. I'll include it in the written chronicle. But it was kind of disappointment, and I think he was expressing, we knew this day would come eventually, but it's almost a joke that they've waited till now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we released the token X amount of years ago. Yeah. They don't even have the framework to tell us what's a security and what's not a security. And so, I think he's kind of vowed to defend themselves, but more disappointed and bitter than anything. And he's not shocked. Because, once again, it kind of shows that strong, the SEC flex on everyone, don't they? It's just kind of like, we're the SEC, this is it, but we don't really have a sound regulatory approach to your industry, but we'll try and put you under anyway. It's just like...
And they just love putting clouds over everything, don't they?
Yeah.
Just smoke screens.
Just Gary and him. But really, I'll include the blog post in that, and you can read the news on that. But really just another case to add to the pile. I think we listed them all last week, didn't we?
I know. We should actually fill the whiteboard.
Yeah.
We could have kept
just
track.
Keep adding one each time.
What happens the last 12 months, we can just reference it back to who it is and be like, the narrative.
Yeah. Quickly, the Queensland Law Enforcement Authority has advocated for expanding authority to seize crypto. Now, Queenslanders, not CoinStash, Queenslanders are usually quite naughty with crypto, I find. And now over my journey, I found
It's very statist of you.
Well, look, I'm not saying anything about you Queenslanders, and I'm not saying...
Let's not point fingers in this.
All of the scammers come from Queenslander. But they are advocating for updating asset confiscation laws. So obviously this has to kind of do with digital asset related crime. So if they bust drug dealers or they bust, whoever it is up there.
I realise that's 100% what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's all bikies. Well, not like do your own thing, but it's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
It's because they want all the bikies are hiding their cash into BTC and everything else.
Of course. Yeah. Well, if you were a drug dealer, it'd be the smartest way, wouldn't it?
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you have a name on a wallet. So you've got a name on your house where you store the cash though. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, really, this was just kind of stressing the need to kind of fix the criminal landscape, I guess, and kind of proposing new reforms about how they can enhance their seizure capabilities. Because obviously at the moment they're not up to scratch. So we never like the bad people in crypto. So go ahead, Queensland. Anyways.
Go ahead, Queensland. It'd have to be almost federal arts, surely. Isn't that way you could just stay at that one?
I don't know. I think it's just like, once again, Australia's so lost in regulating crypto that maybe it is a state thing as it stands. But
it'd be more.
I think police forces are, state jurisdiction. So it's the Queensland Police saying, "Can we have a bit more?"
But it'd be the police commission, which is federal, that I have to approve.
No idea. Oink oink, piggies. Good work. So there was an actual lawsuit filed by the Australian securities regulator against the Finder. So Finder's that, Finder, you just got that.
Was it in Finder?
Yeah. Oh, well, sorry. There is another one, but there was a Finder.
I didn't see that one. I missed that.
No, yeah. So
I've met him. He's a nice guy. That's
Finder had actually won. So they had an earn product.
Yeah.
Just like anything, Binance earn and Bybit earn. And so they deemed that obviously they deemed it compliant, the federal court. So ASIC actually went back and appealed the findings, saying that they lacked the proper licensing. Once again, you can liken this to the SEC and SEC. American companies, if you don't have the right regulatory framework in place, these companies aren't at fault. It's that you didn't tell them what the rules were, and that's your job.
Yeah.
So obviously, Finder are going to defend the product once again, and so on and so forth. So keep an eye on that. I'm sure there'll be more news on that soon when they actually go back to court. But
he'll fight it tooth and nail, don't worry.
Yes, the worst part, and this will play into our halving and talking about custody and having your own miners and your own Bitcoin, is that there was a Queensland, once again, another Queensland.
Let's not draw it to states.
Another Queensland firm was found to be an unlicensed blockchain mining firm. So the Australian authorities cracked down on them. Essentially what they did was they said, you give us X amount of cash, we'll give you 16% return. Essentially what their business model was is they were just obviously taking everyone's cash, buying miners. They couldn't keep the inflows of BTC and power bills being paid and blah, blah, blah.
Buying miners.
Well, this is the assumption is what I'm saying. This is what the assumption is what I'm saying. So buying miners and blah, blah, blah. And then you were promised that the Bitcoin that was being mined was then, you didn't actually get the Bitcoin, did you? You just got cash back in 16% or?
Yeah. So look, we're not going to beat around the bush. We can say the name because it's already all everywhere. As soon as you Google it, you'll find it. It's NGS Crypto. If anyone's invested with them, obviously very sorry.
Yeah.
It's, very unfortunate. However, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it,
we laughed about it the first time we saw it.
My alarm bell's gone off because it just doesn't make sense. We can't guarantee you any form of return. We can show you what it looks like and what it could be, but you can't guarantee you're going to get 16% every year for the next 5 years plus your initial investment back.
Yeah.
That is absolute cuckoo lands, right? Particularly in the world of mining because anything can change the drop of a hat.
Exactly.
16%, in my opinion, I always felt like they were undercutting them.
Yeah.
Because realistically 16% from a miner is pretty low. Usually it's around that 50 to 60 area. So it was very interesting and obviously very unfortunate, but my instinct tells me that they were definitely not buying miners because at the moment pretty much every miner over the last 4 years is in profit by now. Yeah. Or at least moderately, depending unless you bought, dog trash. Yeah. Which, they haven't been around for that long. They've been around for about 4 or 5 years now, maybe 6 years. That have, relatively robust machines. Especially for the amount of liquidity they had. So to me, it just seems like they were just chucking the money and trading it and losing it. Yeah. Well, it's why, because you read about the directors and their personal crypto holdings and stuff and how their assets have been frozen. Oh, they've sold 7 houses. Yeah, all it's just the classic, isn't it? And, I remember going on their website and, it's funny being, at the most legit,
long-standing Australian mining company, I guess. I think Boy started in 2017 or 2018, so that's 6 or 7 years now. And I've obviously been here for 3 or 4 now. Taylor's going on 2 years. 3-ish this year. And, we see these companies come and go all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's in trading. It doesn't matter if it's in education. It doesn't matter if it's in mining. But it's the world of crypto. So there's always going to be these flashing companies that you're promising everything. I think if I can give you, and, boss, I am trying to sell us. I'm not trying to. But, in crypto, legitimacy and what's the word I'm looking for here? Longevity is the number one thing you should look for, because if a company's been through 3 cycles, they're probably doing something right. We just spoke about how we can't guarantee anything. We can't guarantee anything from cycle to cycle, and we've survived.
I can't even guarantee company tomorrow.
Exactly. We've got Iran and Israel, but it just goes to show. And I'm not even referencing us. If you go to any other industry, other industries in crypto, it's the first thing you should look for, because your alarm bell should ring if a company was made 6 months ago. They're promising X%. They've got X amount of employees and their website looks like this. Well, of course, you're asking for it. You know better. It's just human psychology when you see these things.
Well, it's not
greed
even that.
Takes over.
The thing, particularly in like mining as well, it's obviously very much a nuts and bolts style arrangement, in the sense that it's ABC equals D, right? You're obviously getting a product, there's a service, and there's a return, as well as obviously ongoing. So go with that. A lot of investors, particularly in their first time, they always fall into that trap of looking for the cheapest option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
not necessarily from a miner perspective,
100%.
but just comparing options. And it's something that I've always, I guess, not necessarily struggled with a lot of people's comprehension, but we do have a lot of people that come through to us and you're always so much more expensive than so and so and so and so. And it's like, well, to be really honest, that's kind of why we've seen 2 of what I would categorize as the bigger mining companies pretty much collapse this year in Australia.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's definitely another one that's pretty much right on the edge. And, I've always wondered how the hell they stay in business, because their margin must be...
Exactly. Like I remember going
as much water as in this bottle.
And obviously, I'm not too tangoed on Taylor's mining side, but I remember going to that conference and saying to you, well, look at what they're selling them for, their stand, and but their facility in Thailand does X, whatever. And now it all makes sense, because they literally could not profit or run a profitable business or a viable business through different cycles with those type of margins and those type of offerings.
Well, that's the thing. And it's not about a business being greedy, but it's about business being profitable to run for the longevity standpoint, like what you mentioned. All it takes is one bolt to come out of that rack and 4 machines to fall, or whatever it is. The whole house of cards falls.
Yeah.
And so it's about, our margins are not anything exorbitant or excessive, but everything is definitely paid for properly. Everything is installed to the highest degree possible and run at the highest degree possible. Whereas I know for sure there's a bunch that are bloody delivered on donkeys that have probably been kicked by 4 people before they've been installed. So there's obviously that little bit of transparency that needs to take place. And I feel like a lot of first-time clients, that it's that dollar. It's like the stake of $100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to go with someone that that you can speak to that is in Australia, or someone that's overseas that says they're in Australia? So it goes both ways.
We're all criminal of it, aren't we? I'm trying to think of something I buy, but it might be protein powder or something, and I'll search for the end of the earth just to get one that's $5 cheaper, but I might have just ended up paying more shipping or something. You know what I mean?
That's just a product. And that's the biggest difference that a lot of people think of, is that it's not just the product, particularly for this, it's also the service.
Yeah, of course.
And that's, everyone forgets that, because 100% you can go and buy a miner cheaper off another company in the US or in Asia or whatever.
Yeah.
But then once you put duties, tariffs and shipping and everything like that, and you actually get it shipped to you, then what?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It might be $100 cheaper, but then you got to run it yourself.
And my recommendation is for anyone sitting on the fence, or if you want to know more about us or our legitimacy or whether we should be trusted, is do what I think someone else did recently. A couple of people have done it, but one that sticks out in my mind was recently, they just went in our Discord, they just joined, and they just asked straight up. They said, "Hey guys, I'm looking to get a miner. I want to know about the legitimacy. Our mining's still legit." And you'd see all of our clients reply with their anecdotal evidence of how they've enjoyed our services, and obviously our miners as well. So feel free to do that if you need any more conviction.
The other one that I also recommend doing, that it's something become a lot more prevalent in the last sort of 48 to 52 hours, or 72, sorry, is that Google reviews. Definitely worthwhile. However, make sure they've got more than, everyone leaving a review has done more than one review. because that is a very big, it's just a very big giveaway usually.
Yeah, right. Alrighty.
Like no crypto company has a 5-star review. It's not possible in the world. There's always going to be someone that bought the wrong miner.
Oh, that's literally impossible.
Yeah.
There was an article here. I'm not going to speak on it too much. It's just about the RBA conducting a study on retail CBDC adoption. Essentially, it came back that everyone was like, "No, we don't want this as expected because." We don't want a digital currency that the government overseas that we use and they see absolutely everything we do with. Anyways, obviously privacy, data complexities emerged. That was the main thing that they didn't like. Because I think there's, I feel like the government feels like people don't value privacy these days. Not the case. Anyways, our boy Sammy has appealed his fraud conviction and his 25-year sentence.
Trying to get down to 22.5.
Oh, man. Less than 10% succeed on these federal court cases. So
that's actually still relatively high.
But
that's actually not that bad.
Yeah. It's just, I'm not even going to bother.
No, I'm over SPF's done. Yeah.
Good luck. So price action's kind of been all over the place.
Really?
Well, I feel like more so what happens, funnily enough, is because today's the first trading day in the US. So we usually get here and, something's established and I'll talk on the price action. And then Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all of this price action happens. And then I come back here and I've got to recount it. But last week we did bounce from that 75K support that I expected. And we did rally to as high as 73,000. So look, we planned for it. It worked out. Day traders did really well there. But unfortunately, no one can predict black swans. No one can predict that Iran sends
missiles. Mate, I didn't think there was going to be 50 bloody drones flying across the desert to go get someone. So that was a weird one. You
can never kind of predict black swans, of course. For those that have been here since the last bear market, you know all about black swans. But yeah, essentially these Iran fundamentalist rulers launched a massive air attack on Israel. So the price fell from, I think, 70,000 to as low as 60,000.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, literally dropped back 10K, roughly. Yeah.
60,500, 60,800. Anyway, so that's it's over a 10% drop.
Yeah.
Which is the main point. So the main sticking thing here was alts though. They plunged. I'm talking 15 to 50% on some. But the good news is whilst we did tick 60K, we rebounded a bit, and then yesterday there was a bit of more positive news that there wasn't going to be retaliation, and then now it's just like you wake up this morning, now there is going to be retaliation, and it's just like price is like, so like when I went to bed last night, I think we're at 67,000. I was feeling really good.
Yeah, same. I was like, oh, sick.
Woke up
Hong
3
Kong's
a.m., checked the phone, 65,000. No, and then I woke up at 5 a.m. 62,000, and then I couldn't go back to sleep from there. They have slightly bounced on reports that it's kind of neutralized, but it'll be kind of to be seen from here. I obviously can't predict things. I would say I'll go over it more here, but at the moment, the reality is that we're at $63,000 before the halving.
Still
6
more
months
than what I thought it was
ago,
gonna be.
if I gave 100 of our clients a test, in October of last year when we were $25,000, and I said, give me your predictions on the price of Bitcoin just prior to the halving, I think 99.9% predictions would have fallen between 30 and 50,000.
Not even that, I reckon.
Not even that. Well, yeah. And because every single other halving, we'd been so far off the pace, it's not even funny. We are 5 days off the halving, and we're a couple $1,000s off our prior all-time high. As in our 2021 one.
Almost reached for the kazoo there.
That's the reality of it. But that's the technical bullish price action. That is bullish to me. And what's bearish and what people get really scared about, what they panic dump on, is they don't panic dump on the charts. They do see the red candles, but they see that on the 5-minute time frame, not the 1 month time frame. And I guess mixing this in, it has been harsh on us, and I spoke on this heavily in the market update for Trading Academy last week, but there's hot inflation data, so there's threats of further rate hikes. Tax payments fall in April. We obviously know that a lot of companies and individuals have to make heavy tax payments in April. The stock market has been really hot, so that can remove a lot of liquidity from the system. The TGA, Yellen, blah, 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 blah. You'll read it in the update. There's a bit of quantitative tightening going on. So April really without the war. So I did that update last week and I said, be prepared for the next 2 or 3 weeks of bearish price action. But if you get through it, it's...
Well, look, I'll put it from even just like an outsider's opinion in the sense of non-TA. Like if you look at it from the last 12 months, we've had how many 20% fallbacks?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? How much strength have we shown with so much sell-off and we're still above 60K? It's absolute bloody madness.
And I think, it is cringe, but just zoom out. It's the number one. Go to if you're worried right now, go to your chart, click day, click week, or click month if you want. And in between those 7 green months that you're talking about, and this goes back to October where we're at $25,000 that we've dipped down to from 33. Do it on the daily and then you'll see all the ghastly pullbacks. If you do it on the monthly, you'll only see 7 green candles. There's no such thing as a pullback in those candles, and it might make you a bit happier. But I think what's worth noting is the S&P 500 has fallen 4 to 5%. The NASDAQ has fallen. This isn't just a crypto thing. People freak out.
It's everything. Only gold and silver has remained relatively stable.
Exactly. And obviously for very obvious reasons in wartime, it always happens. But, the important thing for me here is to understand that it was a massive deleveraging dump, first and foremost, particularly on alts. And that tells me that it's the speculators that are losing out, the people that are losing leverage. Go back to the data that shows you hodlers. Go back to over one Bitcoin. Majority don't. This isn't majority of us selling. No. It's people that are on Bybit that have, they really need to catch the next move in their stuff. That's all it is. It's 15% of the population are speculative trading. And someone idiots will come out on Twitter and they'll say, "Oh, look at it as a safe haven asset." It's. Majority of us are holding it as a safe haven asset. The 15-minute time frame will show you different price action. Once again, go look at the last 7 months and tell me if majority have sold it.
Do they understand what a safe haven asset is?
Yeah, exactly. So, really to tie this back all in, it was a large liquidation event. But I wanted to say, if you're worried about the war too, go back to February of 2022, get the chart up. Russia declared war on Ukraine. Now, we dropped from as high as $48,000, I think, to as low as $28,000 on that news or something, and instantly rebound. We actually rallied 45% that month, February and March, post Russia-Ukraine, because maybe we weren't a safe haven asset. But the bearish conditions then were shocking. We were in a bear market. We'd entered the bear market. Obviously, what happened from there is we rode from 28 back to 44, whatever it was. And then Luna, 3AC, blah, blah, that happened the next month, April, May, June, which was unfortunate. But important to note that we've had this playbook before and you saw what the asset did.
Yeah, exactly,
So I wanted to make that point. And then additionally, it's kind of cooking whether we're about to get one of the greatest generational bottoms ever, because as I said, you've got war fears in your face, you've got quantitative tightening, tax payments, hot inflation data, threats of the Fed raising rates, the stock markets look ugly, the DXY is going up. But if we got to May and the quantitative tightening started easing, the war fears subsided, Yellen starts pumping liquidity back into the system, I think you'll find before you can blink that this will be a thing of the past. And it'll be one of those moments, if you go back and look at your phone from October and you get up the prices then, you were shitting yourself when price was 25K. Everyone was. Go and get a screenshot of what prices were on alts and Bitcoin then, and then skip to December, 2 months later, just October to December. And then I want to imagine what you could feel like right now in April, and then when we're in June.
I'm actually going to do that. When I get out of this, I'm going to screenshot.
Do it.
And do
screenshot all the prices on today.
Yeah,
and then put a reminder in your phone. Go on June 16 and say, please check the screenshot I took of crypto prices on the 16th of April when everything was diving and the world was about to go to war. I feel like, I could look like the biggest idiot ever doing this, but I'm going to do it myself as well. And we're going to bring it up on that podcast because I think it's a good exercise to do to help people understand, zoom out, relax.
Well, it's Sunday, just don't look at it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You can't help it. You're chasing it, right?
And if you're here for the right reasons, which all of us should be, which is we're either mining or we're passively investing for long-term time horizon, these timeframes shouldn't matter.
No.
Just lastly, the high timeframes have not changed at all. You'll see all of this info in the written chronicle if you want to read more instead of listening to me talk about it. But Bitcoin dominance is looking to top in the next, hopefully, month or two. I've said probably 56 to 57% on this podcast. How many times? 1,000 times. And we've finally gotten there. And we've had a huge rejection so far. I think it topped out at 56 point something.
3 or 4, I think it was.
And so it has head back down to about 55%. Now, I'm not ruling out that because if Bitcoin does decide to go on some huge rally, it doesn't have to drag alts with it. This could go as high as 57 to 60%. But I feel like in the month after the halving or 2 months, maybe in mid-June, that this should present a top at some point and alt should rally. And think 2021 alt season. We have a long way to go. Don't cheat your bags just here because of one red day, one red week. You've had 7 green months. So
from the previous cycle, post halving, how long did it take for
roughly
BTCD to top out?
BTCD, I'm not sure about.
Did you see that?
It was very different the last cycle with BTCD. Obviously. It's hard to, because it was so high, and then we had the ETH ICOs, and everything just changed. But the price action at least remains historically stale for about 90 days post halving.
Yeah, the 90-day rule.
Now, that's so whether you want to just take an assumption there that it's stale for 90 days, then we get a huge Bitcoin rally, and then that's when it tops out. I find this cycle very different. We've had an ETH before the halving. We've got an ETH ETF decision next month.
More liquidity.
Yeah, so much more liquidity.
People mining, hash rate leads price, everything, you name it.
Yeah. So anyways, as saying, the sky's the limit is the TLDR. So position yourself accordingly. The Trading Academy bought 4 different assets on Sunday morning. Yes, I was working Sunday morning. Thank the heavens. Thank the crypto world for that. And we're going to continue to do so if we head lower. We actually bought 3 of the same coins we've been holding. We just dollar cost average because they had 30 to 50 cent dumps. And then I bought a new coin for us, which is one of the great coins. Actually, I won't mention it, but I love it. So yeah, we're going to prepare to invest where we see fit. And prepare ourselves because, this market isn't done yet. Whether that's heading lower to get us to accumulate more for work before we go high, or if it just heads high from here, fantastic. Obviously, if you need any help with investing or on any cryptocurrency education, reach out. Now, Taylor, mining, halving, what's going on?
Mate, we're seeing actually one of the very, very interesting little change-ups, which is obviously transactional volume has massively increased.
Yeah.
Which is obviously seeing a huge increase in transactional rewards.
Ordinals?
Yeah, ordinals, and I think there's obviously quite a bit of hype around that runes stuff, which hasn't really started. It's still its test net.
It's like next week or two, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. But I think there's a lot of people sort of that gets drawn over to ordinals because of the hype of runes and so forth. So at the moment, it's kind of really interesting. We're seeing this drop in Bitcoin's price. However, the block reward has gone up by about 400%. Yeah. So obviously at the moment, you're seeing a 1.11 average block additional to the 6.25, which is pretty great. We've seen it previously the last few months as well. The thing that I see at the moment that really shapes that around is that we could potentially see in the next week, if it continues, which, if runes jumps off, we could see 2-3 Bitcoin blocks again.
Yeah.
You could easily be seeing a fourth to a half a block from just transactional volume, which is what we've sort of said could potentially start to take over the new norm going forward, particularly through the bull run. So it's been a very interesting week on that front. So Bitcoin miners would have loved that. You would have seen a slight increase in revenue.
Yeah. I think maybe in the next few weeks, once the testnet's over at launches, we might do a podcast on ordinals and runes or something just to get everyone across it.
Yeah, exactly right. I think it's a good idea to do that. Yeah. But other than that, everything else, to be honest, is bleeding like crazy. And that's obviously just because of obviously price action at the moment, as well as, at the end of the day, difficulty is very much in the same boat. There's not been too much jump around. Script is the only one that's really had a big jump up, and that's mainly just because of a new batch of L7s going out. That Bitmain produced more off the back of Doge going crazy, so everyone bought them all. So it's just, pretty normal that goes up.
What about your boy CKB?
Mate, Nervos is still the same. Not much has changed. It did like 100% a few weeks ago, and now it's probably got jumped to 100%. I really looked at it. So that's been kind of funny. Cal's been freaking out, wondering, Jesus, where's all that CKB we mined years ago? So that's kind of funny. But no, beyond that, everything else is the same. Casper's probably the one that's been hit the hardest with those KS5s coming out. Everyone's really feeling the pinch. The hash rate's jumping pretty badly. Yeah,
price action hasn't been nice to Casper either over recent months.
Yeah, exactly right. I was about to say that it's dropped by 50%.
Yeah, it's about 50%, easily.
So yeah, it's a little concerning for a few of those people mining it. It's kind of why we've not really pushed much on the mining front for that, because it's kind of been, I guess, an uphill battle going forward, particularly with the price of the machines. We're not selling Ice River anymore due to some quality concerns. Then you've obviously got, the price action of the coin really struggling. Plus you've got obviously then the continued emission schedule. It's a very bleak thing for mining Casper. So, as long as the coin goes up in value, everyone's going to be hunky-dory, but that hasn't happened in the last few months.
Yeah, and just to those Casper holders and miners, I do expect more favourable. It's weird because I find Casper's like the meme coin of Bitcoin mining. Just ASIC mining, I should have said. So retail love Casper, and retail aren't here right now, and retail is what is required to pump alts, and that's not. So don't be worried on Casper as a one out. I think when liquidity does come back to alts, that Casper does outperform most. So.
And like, it's a pretty easy thing to see Cas hitting 50 cents.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty easy. So I think anyone that
that's
hits
only
that,
2x of its prior high.
Yeah.
So and 4 to 5x from here. So yeah.
Beyond that, nothing else. It's just halving watch and getting ready.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, we will speak heavily on the halving, obviously, next Tuesday. Price action should be really interesting in the week, that's about to ensue. Once again, if you want any help on your investments or your mining, get in contact with us, not a scammy Queensland company, and we shall help you out and see you next week.
Yeah, if anyone is invested with NGS, do reach out. Happy to help in any way I can.
Yeah.
Point you in the right direction. So just let us know.
Awesome. Alrighty, thanks guys.